Kira sat cross-legged on the preparation chamber floor, methodically sharpening a combat knife against a whetstone she'd found in the corner. The metallic scraping sound filled the narrow corridor, mixing with the distant roar of the crowd above. Red emergency lights cast everything in bloody shadows, and moisture dripped from overhead pipes with rhythmic persistence. A security guard peered through the small window in the heavy door, his orange-furred face pressing against the glass. "Human, you have 2 minutes until—" He stopped, watching her sharpen the blade with complete calm. "You understand what's about to happen, yes? Vorac has never lost, not once in 93 matches." 93? Kira tested the blade's edge with her thumb, nodding in satisfaction. "That's actually impressive. Most arena champions back home don't make it past 60 before someone younger and angrier shows up." The guard's 3 eyes blinked in sequence, confusion rippling across his features. "Your world has many such arenas? We have entire sports leagues." Kira stood, sliding the knife into her belt. "Granted, we stopped using actual death matches about 200 years ago. Insurance companies got involved, ruined all the fun. But the principle's the same. 2 people enter, 1 person wins, everybody else makes money betting on the outcome." The heavy door groaned open, revealing the arena beyond. The crowd's roar intensified immediately, a wall of sound that physically pressed against her. Harsh white spotlights blazed down onto sand so stained with old blood it looked more brown than beige. The guard stepped aside, gesturing toward the opening with one furry hand. "The announcer awaits your entrance. Try to make it entertaining before you die." Kira walked through, and the door slammed shut with brutal finality. The arena floor stretched 50 meters across, perfectly circular and enclosed by 20-foot stone walls, scarred by weapons and claws. Weapon racks lined the perimeter. Swords, staffs, energy rifles, plasma cannons, all arranged like a buffet of violence. The sand crunched under her boots, and she could feel the weight of thousands of eyes watching from the stadium seating that rose in tiers around the arena. Above and to her left, the luxury viewing box jutted out from the wall like a crystal growth. Inside, Thexron, the arena master, lounged in an oversized chair covered in purple fabric. His gray-blue chitinous-plated skin caught the light, each plate shifting slightly as he moved. His 3 horizontal black eyes tracked Kira's movement with predatory focus. Both of his muscular arms rested on the chair's armrests, clawed fingers drumming in impatient rhythm. Beside him stood Zenith, the crystalline announcer. Her entire body was translucent and faceted like a living diamond, internal light shifting from calm blue to excited orange as she prepared to speak. Her 2 crystalline arms gestured toward holographic displays, showing betting odds that scrolled past in glowing numbers. When she spoke, her voice emerged as a melodic chime that the arena's speakers amplified across the space. "Honored spectators, today's challenger hails from Earth, the human home world." Zenith's internal light pulsed with orange excitement. "The species that claims to have conquered their own planet through nothing but stubbornness and the refusal to accept reasonable extinction?" Laughter erupted from the crowd. Thousands of alien voices merged into a cacophony of mockery. Kira looked up at the viewing box and offered a casual 2-fingered salute. Thexron's 3 eyes narrowed, his chitinous plates rippling with what might have been amusement. "Zenith." Thexron's voice was deep and resonant, carried through the same speaker system. "What are the current odds on our human friend's survival?" Zenith's crystalline arms moved through holographic controls, her internal light flickering as she calculated. 847 to 1 against my lord. Several species have wagered their entire fortunes on Vorac's victory within the first 30 seconds. Excellent. Thexron leaned back, his chitinous plates settling into comfortable positions. "Then let us not disappoint them. Release the champion." From the opposite side of the arena, massive doors ground open with the shriek of metal on stone. What emerged made several species in the audience actually gasp. Vorac was 8 feet of nightmares given physical form. His segmented black exoskeleton gleamed under the spotlights like polished obsidian, each section reinforced with bioorganic plating that could withstand plasma fire. His 2 arms weren't really arms anymore. They'd been surgically enhanced into blade-like weapons, each one vibrating at frequencies that made the air around them shimmer and hiss. His compound red eyes covered most of his face in a mosaic of thousands of individual lenses, all reflecting the light in fractured patterns. His mandibles clicked together, and a sound somewhere between a screech and a laugh emerged from his throat. The crowd went berserk. Vorac scuttled forward on 6 segmented legs, each step calculated and precise. He stopped in the center of the arena, both blade arms raised high in a victory pose he'd clearly practiced. The spotlights caught the edges of his weapons, creating rainbow refractions across the blood-stained sand. "Human!" Vorac's voice came out as clicking syllables that the translation system converted to words. "You dare challenge Vorac? You, with your soft flesh and breakable bones?" He slammed both blade arms into the sand, creating deep furrows. "I have killed warriors from 23 species. I have consumed champions who were stronger, faster, and better armed than you." Kira walked calmly toward the nearest weapon rack, completely ignoring the posturing. The crowd's noise died down as spectators tried to figure out what she was doing. She examined the available weapons with the casual interest of someone browsing a hardware store. An energy sword, too flashy, would probably run out of charge at an inconvenient moment. A plasma rifle, too easy, and where's the challenge in that? A gravity hammer, tempting but unnecessarily dramatic. Her hand stopped on something unexpected. A simple steel combat knife, identical to the one she'd just finished sharpening, sitting among all the high-tech weapons like a museum piece. She picked it up, testing the weight and balance. 2 knives. Yeah, that'll work. In the viewing box, Zenith's internal light flickered from orange to confused yellow. "My lord, the human has selected knives, simple steel blades, against Vorac's enhanced exoskeleton and vibroblades." Thekron's 3 horizontal eyes blinked in sequence, processing this information. His chitinous plates shifted, creating a sound like rustling paper. "Is this a human cultural practice? Ritual suicide before the actual combat?" "Unknown, my lord." Zenith's crystalline arms moved through more holographic displays, searching databases. Human combat doctrine is extensive. They have 17,000 documented fighting styles, most of which seem designed to compensate for their complete lack of natural weapons or armor. Below, Vorac watched Kira select the second knife, and his mandibles clacked together in genuine amusement. "Blades? You bring primitive metal against my perfected form?" He flexed both blade arms, and the vibration frequency increased until the sound became painful to certain species in the audience. "My exoskeleton is reinforced with bioceramic compounds. My weapons can slice through starship hull plating. Your species' primitive tools cannot even scratch." Kira threw the first knife. It wasn't a fancy throw, no dramatic wind-up, no spinning flourish. Just a simple, brutally efficient motion she'd practiced 10,000 times across a dozen war zones and 3 separate continents. The blade punched through one of Vorac's compound red eyes and buried itself 3 inches into his head. The arena went silent. Not quiet, completely, utterly, impossibly silent. Thousands of alien voices cut off mid-scream as if someone had physically disconnected reality's audio system. Vorac stood perfectly still, both blade arms frozen mid-gesture. His remaining compound eye seemed to register confusion in thousands of individual lenses. His mandibles opened and closed soundlessly, viscous fluid dripping onto the sand. Then his legs gave out. All 6 of them collapsed simultaneously, and the champion crashed face first into the blood-stained sand hard enough to raise a dust cloud that glowed red in the spotlight beams. Kira held her second knife casually, point down, waiting to see if he'd get back up. He didn't. She walked over to the body, planted one boot on the segmented exoskeleton, and pulled her first knife free with a wet sucking sound. She wiped both blades on Vorac's thorax section, then looked up at the viewing box. "Next?" Thekron's 3 horizontal eyes had dilated to their maximum width, all 3 pupils contracted to pinpoints. His gray-blue chitinous plates had gone completely pale, almost white. Both of his clawed hands gripped the armrests of his chair hard enough that cracks appeared in the expensive material. Zenith's crystalline body had turned completely transparent, her internal light extinguished entirely. Her 2 crystalline arms hung motionless at her sides. The champion. Zenith's melodic voice had become a discordant chime, like bells ringing underwater. She killed the champion in calculating 4.7 seconds from initial engagement. In the betting hall adjacent to the viewing area, chaos erupted. Aliens of every description stampeded toward the holographic boards, shouting in languages the translation system couldn't handle fast enough. Some had multiple limbs, others had none. Several were fighting over holographic betting slips that were already dissolving into worthless data. The boards themselves flickered and reset repeatedly, their programming unable to process an outcome that should have been statistically impossible. Back in the viewing box, Thexron finally found his voice. That was she merely. His chitinous plates rippled in waves across his body, a visible sign of extreme stress. Bring out Krathac. Immediately. My lord! Zenith's internal light flared red in alarm, the color of warning and danger. Krathac is our secondary champion. He's scheduled for the execution matches. Now! Now! A third door opened in the arena floor, and something massive squeezed through the opening. Krathac made Vorac look like a practice dummy. The creature was 12 feet of armored muscle and rage, a quadrupedal beast with scaled hide that looked like overlapping tank plating, each scale the size of a dinner plate. His head featured 6 eyes arranged in 2 rows of 3, and a mouth that opened vertically instead of horizontally, revealing concentric rows of crystalline teeth that rotated like a living garbage disposal. Spikes jutted from his spine in a ridge that ran from skull to tail. His breath came out as superheated steam that turned the sand to glass where it landed. Kira sighed, looking at her 2 knives. Okay, that's definitely not regulation size for arena combat. Krathac charged immediately, all 6 massive legs propelling his bulk across the arena with terrifying speed. The sand exploded upward with each footfall, creating craters. His vertical maw opened wide enough to swallow a small vehicle, those rotating teeth screaming as they spun. Kira ran straight at him. The crowd's roar returned, now mixed with confused screeching and what might have been several species praying to their respective deities. Even Thexron leaned forward in his chair, all 3 eyes focused completely on the arena floor. His chitinous plates pressed against the transparent force field separating the viewing box from the combat zone. At the last possible second, the exact moment when collision seemed inevitable, Kira dropped into a slide. Her momentum carried her between Krathac's front legs, sand spraying up around her. As she passed underneath the beast's massive bulk, she drove both knives upward into the softer scales of his throat, then ripped sideways with the full strength of her body weight pulling the blades through flesh. The cuts weren't deep, couldn't be, not through hide that thick, but they didn't need to be. Krathac's roar turned into a gurgling scream that echoed off the stone walls. Superheated blood sprayed across the sand in arterial spurts, hissing and steaming where it landed, turning patches of ground into smoking glass. The beast stumbled, his 6 legs tangling in confusion as his brain tried to process the sudden oxygen deprivation. He crashed face first into the arena wall with enough force to crack the stone, sending chunks of rock tumbling down onto the sand. His vertical maw opened and closed twice more, rotating teeth still spinning uselessly. Then he stopped moving. Kira stood, examined both knives, now noticeably dulled and covered in steaming blood, and turned back to the viewing box. Blood and sand covered her uniform in abstract patterns. She wasn't even breathing hard, her chest rising and falling at normal resting rate. Next, this time she shouted it loud enough that the word echoed. Thexron stood so abruptly that his chair tipped backward and crashed to the floor. His gray-blue chitinous plates had now gone completely white, almost translucent. All 3 of his horizontal eyes twitched independently, unable to focus on any single point. His clawed hands clenched and unclenched compulsively. This is unprecedented, impossible. The human must be using illegal augmentation technology. He gestured frantically at Zenith with both arms. Scan her, full spectrum analysis. She must be cybernetically enhanced or chemically boosted, or Zenith's crystalline arms moved through holographic controls, her internal light flickering between colors too quickly to identify. Sensor data scrolled across displays in cascading waterfalls of information. My lord, the scans show. WCCC. She's completely unaugmented. Standard baseline human physiology. No cybernetics, no chemical enhancement, no genetic modification beyond natural selection. She's just normal for her species. Normal? Thexron's roar made Zenith's crystalline body vibrate like a struck tuning fork, creating harmonic resonances that rattled the holographic displays. Kira cupped both hands around her mouth. Are we doing this or what? I've got a shuttle to catch in 90 minutes, and I'd really prefer not to miss it because you guys can't decide whether to send out more monsters or just admit I won. In the betting hall, a full riot was forming. Security guards, various species all wearing identical black armor, tried to restore order, but aliens were now throwing credits at each other in physical form. Several fights had broken out over holographic betting slips. One group was demanding their wagers back, claiming the match was fixed. Another group was insisting they'd won and wanted immediate payment. The holographic boards had given up entirely and shut down, displaying only error messages in 12 languages. Thexron's chitinous plates rippled in waves as he struggled to process the situation. His three eyes finally focused, all converging on Kira's small figure standing in the arena surrounded by corpses. "Release. Ching. Release the Nexus hounds, all 6 of them, my lord." Zenith's internal light turned deep purple, the color of absolute terror. "The hounds are pack hunters. We use them exclusively for executions, not arena combat. They're not trained for. Release them." 6 doors opened simultaneously around the arena's perimeter, evenly spaced like points on a compass. What emerged made Kira actually pause and reassess her situation. Nexus hounds weren't dogs, weren't even remotely canine. Each one was a writhing mass of muscular tentacles surrounding a central mouth filled with rotating teeth similar to Krathac's, but smaller and faster. They moved on 3 thick pseudopods that propelled them in disturbing sideways scuttles that seemed to defy normal physics. Their bodies pulsed with sickly green bioluminescence that left trails in the air. They communicated through harmonic screeches that made the arena's audio system feedback with painful static that caused several species in the audience to cover their auditory organs. The 6 hounds spread out immediately, surrounding Kira in a perfect hexagonal formation. Pack tactics, coordinated hunting behavior, actually intelligent. "Now that," Kira said, rotating slowly to keep all 6 in her visual field, both knives held ready, "is actually interesting. Finally something that requires actual strategy." The hounds attacked in perfect synchronization, all 6 launching themselves from different angles in a coordinated strike pattern designed to overwhelm prey through simultaneous assault. Tentacles extended, rotating mouths opening wide, bioluminescent trails creating a cage of green light. Kira grabbed Vorac's corpse. The insectoid's body was heavy, easily 200 pounds of exoskeleton and dead weight. But adrenaline and muscle memory from years of hauling equipment through combat zones made it manageable. She swung the corpse like a grotesque baseball bat, catching the first hound mid-leap with enough force that the impact created a wet crunching sound. The hound flew backward into the arena wall, hitting with a splat that left green ichor sliding down the stone. She dropped the body immediately, dove forward under the second hound's lunge, rolled to her feet, and sprinted for the nearest weapon rack. Her hands closed around a plasma rifle standard military issue, the kind she'd trained with for 6 years before they'd upgraded her unit to the newer models. The remaining 5 hounds regrouped instantly, their harmonic screeches rising in pitch. A sound like a chorus of dying stars filtered through broken machinery. They'd learned from the first attack. Now they approached cautiously, circling, looking for openings. Kira fired. The plasma bolts lit up the arena in strobing blue-white flashes that created stark shadows jumping across the walls. The first shot vaporized hound number 2, turning it into a cloud of superheated particles. The second bolt melted through hound 3's central mass, the rotating teeth still spinning as the creature dissolved. Hounds 4, 5, and 6 tried to scatter in different directions, using their sideways scuttle to create unpredictable movement patterns. She tracked them with the casual precision of someone who'd spent years in actual combat, not staged performances. Leading targets, calculating trajectory, compensating for plasma bolt drop over distance, all automatic muscle memory. 3 more shots. 3 more explosions of superheated biomass that left smoking craters in the sand. Silence fell across the arena once again. Kira stood in the center of the killing ground, surrounded by corpses and smoking craters that glowed with residual heat. The plasma rifle rested casually on one shoulder, still warm from discharge. Smoke and steam created atmospheric effects through the spotlight beams, turning her into a silhouette wreathed in destruction. She looked up at the viewing box, meeting Thexron's 3-eyed stare. "I'm starting to think you guys don't actually want to give me that prize money you advertised across 12-star systems." Thexron's 3 horizontal eyes had glazed over completely, all 3 pupils dilated in shock. His gray-blue chitinous plates were now the color of old bone. Both of his clawed hands gripped the force field wall, scratching uselessly against the energy barrier in what might have been an unconscious attempt to physically stop what was happening. The arena master's voice came out as a rasp. "The Chesty Hugh, the human. Chesty she, Chesty Hugh, Chesty chest, chesty hue, chesty hue. Crystalline body had stopped refracting light entirely, turned into dull gray stone by absolute shock. What species produces such warriors? What kind of evolutionary pressure creates this? Kira dropped the plasma rifle with a metallic clang and started walking toward the viewing box's access stairs. Her boots left bloody footprints in the sand, a trail of violence marking her path, the kind that evolved on a death world where literally everything tried to kill us for 3 million years straight. The kind that looked at predators, poisons, plagues, and natural disasters and said, "Neat, let's make it worse for training purposes." She reached the stairs and started climbing, each bootstep echoing in the silent arena. The kind that turned warfare into an art form before we even figured out agriculture. The kind that has 17,000 documented fighting styles because we kept getting bored with the old ones. The kind that sees a problem and immediately asks, how can I kill it with minimal resources? She reached the viewing box entrance. The door was sealed, but she could see the control panel, standard galactic security system, the kind with 12-digit access codes that most species considered unbreakable. Kira pulled out a small device from her belt, a code breaker she bought in the station's market for 20 credits. She slapped it against the panel and waited exactly 3 seconds while it cycled through possibilities. The door opened with a pneumatic hiss. She walked into the luxury viewing area, leaving bloody boot prints on expensive imported flooring that probably cost more than her entire shuttle. Thexron remained frozen by the force field wall, both clawed hands still pressed against the barrier. Zenith stood in the corner, her crystalline arms wrapped around herself protectively, internal light so dim she was barely visible. "Now," Kira said, pulling out a datapad from her belt and wiping blood off the screen with her thumb, "about that prize money. The advertisement I saw broadcast across the commercial network said, and I quote, 'Defeat the arena champion, win 500,000 credits.' Well, I defeated your champion." She gestured toward the arena floor below. "Also your backup champion. Also your backup champions that were technically classified as execution methods rather than legitimate opponents." She tapped the datapad, bringing up documents. "My shuttle leaves in 78 minutes, so if someone could just approve the credit transfer to my account, I'll be on my way and we can all pretend this never happened." "The human wants payment," Zenith translated unnecessarily, her melodic voice now a discordant whisper. After everything, after killing Vorac and Krathac and 6 Nexus hounds, she wants the payment." Kira looked at the crystalline announcer. "Well, yeah, obviously. That was literally the deal. You advertised across 12 systems on the commercial networks. Prove your species' worth in glorious combat, right? Test yourself against the galaxy's finest warriors. Wasn't that the tagline?" She held up the datapad, showing the original advertisement still cached in her files. "I proved it. I tested myself. Now pay me what you promised." Thexron's 3 eyes finally focused, all converging on Kira. Some color returned to his chitinous plates, just enough to go from corpse white to sickly gray. You fundamentally misunderstand the nature of the arena. The combat is meant to be symbolic. A test of honor and warrior spirit, not actual. "So it was rigged," Kira interrupted flatly, her voice cutting through his explanation like her knives through flesh. The viewing box went silent. "The whole thing," she continued, walking closer to where Thexron stood frozen by the window, "was designed to let whichever species you favored win. Make them look impressive, boost their galactic reputation, increase their political leverage while you skim profit from betting pools." She glanced at Zenith, whose crystalline form tried to retreat further into the corner. "And you manipulated the odds so suckers would bet on obvious underdogs, then watch them get publicly destroyed in the arena while you cleaned up massive profits from rigged outcomes." Thexron's chitinous plates flushed with sudden color, the equivalent of anger finally overriding fear. "You dare accuse me of—" Kira held up her datapad, screen facing outward so both aliens could see it clearly. "I recorded the whole thing. Full audio, full video, biometric readings from your viewing box showing you knew exactly what would happen when you sent Krathac and the hounds. Plus financial records I pulled from your betting system while Zenith was too busy panicking to notice her security protocols had about as much protection as tissue paper." She smiled without warmth. "I might be a combat specialist, but cross-training in cyber warfare and signals intelligence is standard for my unit. You have to understand computers and networks to destroy enemy communications infrastructure effectively. Zenith's crystalline body went completely dark, all internal light extinguished. Thexron's mouth opened and closed soundlessly, his three eyes blinking in random sequence like a computer system crashing. "So here's what's going to happen," Kira said, her voice pleasant and conversational, the tone of someone discussing weekend plans rather than extortion. "You're going to transfer 500,000 credits to my account, exactly as your advertisement promised. Then you're going to transfer another 2 million credits as what we'll politely call a generous donation to ensure this footage doesn't get sent to every major news network in the galaxy. And then," she checked her datapad's chronometer, "in approximately 75 minutes, I'm going to board my shuttle and forget any of this ever happened." She tucked the datapad back into her belt. "Or, alternatively, you refuse, I send the footage anyway, your arena gets shut down for fraud and illegal gambling manipulation. You both spend the next decade fighting legal battles across multiple jurisdictions, and I keep the knives as souvenirs. Your choice. Choose quickly, because that shuttle isn't waiting." "This is extortion," Thexron finally managed, his voice barely a whisper. "No," Kira corrected, examining one of her dulled knives with professional interest. "This is consequence. Extortion would be if I asked for credits without you doing anything wrong first. You committed fraud on a massive scale. You rigged matches. You manipulated betting pools. You probably violated about 40 different galactic commerce laws." She looked up, meeting all three of his eyes. "I'm just offering you a convenient exit that doesn't involve regulatory investigators crawling through your financial records for the next 5 years. Thexron's chitinous plates rippled in waves as he struggled internally. His three eyes dilated and contracted several times, pupils shrinking and expanding like he was literally trying to see a way out of this situation. Finally, his shoulders slumped, plates settling into a configuration that clearly signaled defeat. "Zenith, process the transfers, all of them." The crystalline announcer uncurled from her corner, her internal light returning as dim yellow, the color of reluctant compliance. Her two crystalline arms moved through holographic controls, each gesture creating ripples of light and data. "Yes, my lord. Processing the initial 500,000 credit transfer. Now. Processing the additional 2 million credit transfer. Now. Now." Kira's datapad beeped twice in quick succession. She checked the screen, verified both transfers had completed successfully, and nodded. "Pleasure doing business with you, gentlemen." She turned to leave, then paused at the doorway. "Oh, and Thexron, maybe next time you advertise prove your species worth, make sure you're actually ready to handle what happens when someone takes you seriously." She walked out, her bloody boots leaving a trail across their expensive floor. In the arena below, maintenance drones were already emerging from service hatches, rolling toward the carnage to begin cleanup. The crowd had mostly dispersed, though some aliens lingered in their seats, staring at the blood-soaked sand and the scattered remains of creatures that were supposed to be unbeatable. Kira made her way back through the preparation chamber, where the orange-furred security guard was still at his post, now staring at a monitor showing arena footage with all three of his eyes wide in disbelief. "Hey," Kira said, stopping in front of him. He jumped, spinning to face her. "Advice for your career: find a new job. This place won't be operating much longer. Regulatory investigators tend to shut down illegal operations, and Thexron just paid me enough hush money to confirm he knows he's breaking laws." She walked past him into the corridor beyond, her boots echoing on stone floors. Behind her, in the luxury viewing box, Thexron collapsed into the one chair still upright. His gray-blue chitinous plates had settled into a mottled pattern of defeat and shock. All three eyes stared at nothing, unfocused. "What have we learned?" Zenith asked quietly, her internal light a dim, exhausted blue. Thexron's voice was hollow. "Never advertise to humans unless you're absolutely certain you want them to show up. And, if they do show up, assume they're more dangerous than they appear. Always assume that." Zenith's crystalline arms moved through holographic displays, shutting down systems one by one. The statistical probability of a single, unaugmented human defeating Vorac, Krathac, and 6 Nexus hounds in under 9 minutes was my calculations say impossible. The numbers literally don't work within known physics. "Clearly," Thexron said, reaching for a drink with a trembling clawed hand, "human mathematics and human physics operate on different principles than ours. Principles involving spite, stubbornness, and apparently a complete refusal to acknowledge when they should die." Down in the betting hall, the riot had finally been contained by security forces, who looked just as confused as everyone else. Aliens collected their belongings and fled the station entirely, shooting nervous glances over their shoulders. The holographic boards remained shut down. Small fires still burned in corners where fights had broken out. And somewhere, in the station's docking bay, Kira boarded her shuttle with 5 minutes to spare. She settled into her seat, secured her harness, and pulled out her datapad. She transferred 100,000 credits to the Galactic Combat Sports Ethics Commission with a detailed report and all her recorded evidence attached. The message read, "Thought you'd want to see this. You're welcome." Then she transferred another 50,000 credits to a Veterans Relief Fund that helped former soldiers transition to civilian life. The remaining 35 million credits went straight into her retirement account, which was growing nicely. As the shuttle's engines powered up and the docking clamps released with metallic clangs, Kira leaned back and closed her eyes. Somewhere behind her on the station, an arena master was probably having an existential crisis. An announcer was probably recalculating every assumption she'd ever made about combat capability, and a security guard was probably already uploading his resume to job search networks. But that wasn't Kira's problem anymore. She had a death world to get back to where literally everything tried to kill humans, and they'd turned that into recreational activities. Home.